Hello everyone. So this is Disha Rosetta. Several years before Sandra Bland um, was murdered, because I don't believe that she committed suicide, and her traffic stop, I had a very emotional experience myself with the police. There was a time when I lived in Los Angeles, and instead of owning my own car, I would rent a car to use. And I didn't rent from, Hertz or Enterprise. I rented from mom and pop type places because the rates were lower and I could pay weekly and I could pay in cash, and that was what I needed to do at that time. Well, and I had a job that allowed me to go to different hotels and sell advertising space, and I got a gig in to go to San Diego. So one Saturday morning, Chewy and I got in the car and we're on our way to San Diego. Well, get a little bit of a backstory. I had asked some family members and friends for some financial assistance, and one of those things was to pay the car for the week. Well, I was able to get the assistance, and I thought that someone had paid for the car. So as I'm driving from Carson to San Diego, and I get into Orange County, I start to see the interstate, like starting to thin out with traffic. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna make really good time. Like, there's nobody on the road, like nobody on the road. And I was like, I was eating my In-N-Outs that I had gotten for the road, listening to music, and just enjoying the drive because there was little traffic. Well, as I continued to drive, I looked behind me, and as I was passing it, an on-ramp to the interstate, and I realized that the police were holding people back from getting on to the interstate. And I was like, oh, I guess the president's in town. I was like, ooh, this is interesting. I wonder if I'm going to pass him, because that's the only reason why they do that. So 2 miles later, I realized that there's literally nobody on the interstate with me. And I look to my left and I see a SUV cop car, and the trooper is pointing for me to pull over, and he's like, pull over. And I'm like, well, shit, okay. Granted, there were no sirens, there were no flashing lights, and I decide I pull over. And as I go for the glove box to get out the rental agreement, I look in my rear view and I realize that there are 5 cop cars and plus the SUV, and across each car there are 2 deputies with their guns drawn at me. So at that time, I had 12 guns pointed at me. And I then am shook. And I turn, and I'm so grateful that I turned down the radio, and I hear over the loudspeaker, follow our instructions carefully to avoid being shot. Let me tell you, that is the most terrifying thing I have ever heard in my life. And granted, this is before the cop killings. I mean, and I say in parentheses and with quotes like that because these killings have been going on, but this is before the prevalence of things being recorded and posted to social media. So I'm just scared. I'm just plain scared, not because of things that have already happened, but just scared. And so I am instructed to put the car in park, take my foot off the brake, put down the window, roll down the window, taking the keys out of the ignition, drop the keys outside of the car, and open the car, put my hand outside and open the car from the outside, and to step out backwards and to walk backwards towards them with my hands up. Now, they didn't say it all together. They said it in steps so that I had the time to actually do these things. So as I'm walking backwards with my hands up, where there are 12 guns pointed at me, I am still terrified. I didn't know what the problem was. I didn't know what I had done. And the trooper then put me in handcuffs. And I mean, I was treated with respect. I will say that. I wasn't manhandled. I wasn't roughed. It was, put your hands behind you so I can cuff you. And I did so. The trooper put me in the back of the car. He asked if anybody else was in the car. I said, nobody else is in the car, but my dog is in the car. She, please don't kill my dog. Please don't shoot my dog. I said, she has her little carrier. If you tell her to get into the carrier, she will. And so they went to the car. They put her in the carrier, zipped her up, and put her in the back seat of the trooper, of the police cars with me. And then they went through my things. And, they asked if I had any weapons. I told them I had no weapons. And they told me that they were pulling me over because the low jack had been activated in LA County. So I explained, this is a rental. I showed them, they found the paperwork. They found the receipts because I had kept the receipts. And they said, well, you missed a payment. And I told them I thought that this person had made the payment for me. I was on my way to San Diego for a job. And after being in the car for about an hour, hour and a half, the trooper was like, I'm going to have to take you in. He's like, I don't want to. They were able to reach the car rental place, but because I had crossed into a different county, there were certain things that, certain paperwork and just things that had to be done because of that situation. So he asked me if there was anybody that could come get my dog. And so I called her pet sitter, but her pet sitter wasn't going to be able to get there, in time before the pound closed, because they had to take her to the pound, to the animal shelter. So my dog spent the night in jail and in the animal shelter, and I spent the night in jail in Orange County. I had a really good officer. He took a long time taking me to jail, trying to get things worked out. And he actually took my cell phone and started calling people for me while I was still in the car, putting them on speakerphone, and so that I could try to get together the bail before I got there. And he said, your charges are going to be, it was basically like Grand Theft Auto to an extent. And he was like, they'll get these will get thrown out, no problem, because what you did not steal a vehicle. Like, what you did does not fall under these charges. So, but he said that my bail would be $20,000. $20,000. And that I would have to come up with $2,000. And so I called a lawyer friend of mine that was in Vegas, but I knew that he was also licensed in California, just to see what he could do. And then I called my aunts, my uncle, and my last call was to my father, or to my parents, which was my father, because I knew that he was going to just lose his shit, which he did. But before I called him, I had already made, certain phone calls so that I had a good amount of the money already put together, and it was just a matter of coordinating it. So I had 4 people that gave me $500 so that I could be bailed out. I did spend the night in jail, and that's where meditation came in. That is where visualization came in. Because there is just something about hearing the closing of the doors of a cell. And then there's something else about having to change out of your clothing, being strip searched, and then putting on jail clothing. I actually made friends in jail because that's just who the fuck I am. And my pet sitter actually picked me up from the jail and she had Chewy with her and brought me back into LA. The guy that I was telling you about that was in Vegas was actually now in LA, and got me like set up for the night. And then the next morning I went back to the rental company and got the car back because we got everything figured out and situated. And then I made my way to San Diego to work this advertising job. But I was out on bail, and shortly after, but I, didn't have a court date, and shortly after that situation, I decided to go back to the East Coast. I decided to go and stay with my parents for a while. And the next video, I will tell you about what happened when I missed my court date. But I say all this because when the Sandra Bland incident happened, I had major PTSD. I spent a good 48 hours crying and just in a state of gratefulness that I wasn't the one that was on the news. So I can actually say I had the interstate shut down for me. And I can make jokes about it now. And I can laugh in some spaces about it now. But when I hear stories of my people being killed, my people being beat up, harassed by police, I am so grateful. And even saying that I was treated with respect and kindly almost seems like an oxymoron, because, you're innocent until proven guilty, right? Or at least that's what it's supposed to be, but that's not the way that things happen. But I just recognize that things could have been so different for me. And they weren't. They were not. I was safe. I followed directions. But what if I didn't? What if I had tripped? What if I had reached into my pocket while I was walking backwards? What if I had made literally one wrong move? Yeah, so I am grateful for my life. I live my life to the fullest because I know that, especially on that occasion and other occasions, I could not be here. So I just really wanted to share that. Some of you know that story. Yeah, I have, I've been through some things, done some things, and now I'm here in Da Nang, Vietnam, living my best life. So hope that gives you guys some more perspective into me, gives you some insight, gives you some hope that your situation can, change, because I would have never thought I'd be here right now like this. So thank you for listening to all of this. Thank you for following me on my journey, and look for more videos soon. Thank you. Love ya.